अस्सलामुअलैकुम, मेरा नाम है अब्दुल्लाह, मैं रिहान स्कूल में टीचर ट्रेनिंग का कोर्स कर रहा हूँ। तो आज का हमारा टॉपिक है हाउ टू सेट अचीवेबल गोल एंड स्टे मोटिवेट।
That's the $1 million question, right? I think the secret is usually in the how rather than the what. Like breaking a big, scary goal into tiny, almost ridiculous steps makes it feel way less overwhelming. Do you feel like you struggle more with the initial planning part or the actual follow through?
तो आज का मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन आपसे ये है, व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन आवर ड्रीम एंड आवर गोल?
I love that question. A dream is usually the what if, it's the big, beautiful, airy vision of where you want to be. A goal is when you actually put a date on the calendar and a plan in place. Basically, a dream is the destination, but a goal is the map that gets you there.
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन ये है, व्हाई इज इट इम्पोर्टेंट टू सेट अचीवेबल गोल इंटरेस्ट टू वन?
Because if you set the bar impossibly high right out of the gate, you're basically just setting yourself up to feel like you failed, even if you've made a ton of progress. When you hit those smaller, achievable wins, it creates this positive feedback loop that actually keeps you motivated. It's like the difference between trying to climb Everest in one jump versus taking one step at a time. Does that make sense or does it feel a bit too simple?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन स्मार्ट गोल हेल्प इम्प्रूव सक्सेस रेट?
Smart goals basically take the guesswork out of the equation. By making things specific and measurable, you stop wondering, am I actually getting closer, and start seeing the proof. It turns a vague wish into a concrete project with a deadline, which usually keeps the panic from setting in until the last minute. Have you tried using a specific framework like that before?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट आर द की एलिमेंट्स ऑफ अ वेल डिफाइंड गोल?
A well defined goal usually needs a few non negotiables to actually work. First, it's got to be crystal clear, no vague language. Second, it needs a way to track progress so you know exactly when you've crossed the finish line. And third, it needs a why behind it because that's what keeps you going when the initial excitement wears off. Do you have a specific goal in mind right now that we could try to refine?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन ब्रेकिंग अ लार्ज गोल इनटू स्मॉलर स्पीक मेक इट इजी टू अचीवेबल?
It's all about reducing the friction of getting started. When a goal is huge, your brain often sees it as a threat or a mountain you can't possibly climb, which leads to procrastination. But when you break it down, you're just focusing on the next immediate action. It's way easier to convince yourself to do one small thing for 10 minutes than it is to tackle a massive project. Do you find that you usually get stuck at the beginning of a task?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट आर सम कॉमन पीपल फेस व्हेन गोल?
I'm guessing you mean pitfalls when setting goals? Actually, we're almost out of time on this call. We'll get cut off in a minute, so let's pause here. You can always call me back later and we can dive into those pitfalls. Bye for now.
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, हाउ हाउ कैन यू स्टे मोटिवेट व्हेन प्रोग्रेस फील स्लो?
That's such a common feeling and honestly the hardest part of any long-term goal. I think the key is to shift your focus from the finish line to the small wins. When you stop looking at how far you still have to go and start noticing the tiny bits of progress you've already made, it keeps the momentum going. Do you feel like you're in one of those slow patches right now?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाई इज ट्रिक यू प्रोग्रेस इम्पोर्टेंट? मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाई इज ट्रैकिंग यू प्रोग्रेस इम्पोर्टेंट फॉर गोल अचीवेबल?
Because it keeps you honest with yourself. When you only look at the finish line, it's easy to ignore the fact that you're drifting off course. Checking your progress acts like a GPS. It tells you if you're actually moving forward or if you're just spinning your wheels. Plus, there's something about seeing a checklist actually get filled in that gives your brain a little hit of dopamine, which makes the next step feel a lot easier. Do you usually track your progress with a list or do you just keep it all in your head?
मेरा आपसे एक क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन डेली रूटीन सपोर्ट योर goals?
A daily routine basically turns your goals from something you have to think about into something you just do. It removes that mental struggle of deciding when or how to start, which saves all your energy for the actual work. Instead of wondering, when do I have time for this? The routine just makes it a non negotiable part of your day. Do you feel like your current schedule has room for a set routine or does it feel too unpredictable?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट रोल डज सेल्फ प्ले इन रीचिंग goals?
I think the biggest part is how you talk to yourself while you're doing it. If you're your own harshest critic, every little mistake feels like a sign that you should just give up. But if you can be your own supportive partner, you're much more likely to keep going when things get messy. Does that resonate with you, or do you feel like you're usually pretty hard on yourself?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन पॉजिटिव हैबिट्स हेल्प यू स्टे मोटिवेट?
Positive habits are basically like autopilot for your motivation. When you build a habit, you don't have to rely on that initial spark of excitement, which we know always fades, to get moving. You just do the action because it's part of who you are now. It's a lot easier to stay motivated when you're already in motion. Do you have a habit that always makes you feel more energized once you start it?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, व्हाट शुड यू डू इफ यू fail टू मीट अ goal on time?
The first thing you do is take a breath and remind yourself that a missed deadline isn't a failure, it's just data. Once you've calmed down, look at why it happened. Did you underestimate how long the task would take, or did life just get in the way? When you adjust the plan based on what actually happened, you're not failing, you're just refining the map. Do you think you're more likely to be frustrated with yourself or just feel overwhelmed when you miss a mark?
मेरा आपसे अगला क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन हेल्प मेंटेन मोटिवेट?